Hi guys, welcome back. I have another channeled message for you. There is a frequency that is uniquely yours. Not metaphorically, but literally. A specific note in the frequency of consciousness that only comes into being when you are fully present. When you are speaking from the actual center of who you are, rather than from the performance of who you've learned to be. A note that has never existed before you and will never exist again after you. And the new moon in Gemini is asking for you to find it. Gemini is the sign of the voice, the messenger, the bridge between inner knowing and outer expression. A new moon is a beginning, the darkest point of the lunar cycle, the moment of pure potential before the light returns. And when these two meet, the field is charged with a very specific kind of invitation. Start something with your voice. Begin the chapter that you've been waiting for permission to begin. The permission is not coming from outside. It has never been coming from outside. That is the first thing the field wants you to hear today. Most people have two voices. There is the voice that they use in public, calibrated, careful, shaped by years of learning which versions of themselves was acceptable and which wasn't. And then there's the voice underneath of that one. The one that comes through in the middle of the night when no one is listening. The one that shows up in the journal that no one ever reads. The one that emerges sometimes unexpectedly in a conversation when the guard comes down and the other person looks at you and says, say more of that. The performed voice is not a lie. It developed for many reasons. It kept you safe in contexts where the real voice would have been too much, too strange, too vulnerable, too powerful, or too honest. The performed voice was a survival strategy, and it worked. You are here. But here's what the field wants you to understand. The performed voice, no matter how polished, cannot do what the real voice can do. It cannot land in the way that changes someone. It cannot carry the frequency that heals. It cannot transmit what needs to be transmitted. Because what needs to be transmitted is not information. It's resonance. And resonance can only come from the actual thing. The people who are waiting for what you carry cannot receive it from your performance. They can only receive it from you. Let's talk a moment about the waiting. Because many of you, and the field was very specific about this, have been waiting for something. Waiting until you know enough. Waiting until you have enough credentials or enough followers or enough validation from the right people. Waiting until someone recognizes you, names you, grants you the authority to speak to what you already know. Here's what the field sees when it looks at that waiting. The knowing is already there. It has been there for a long time. The credentials are not the missing piece. The recognition is not the missing piece. The permission from an external authority that you have been waiting for, that permission does not exist. It was never going to arrive because it was never the actual barrier. The barrier is the belief that you need it. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the messenger, the one who moves between worlds, the one who translates information from one domain into a form another domain can receive. Messengers do not wait for permission to deliver the message. The message is the authority. The act of transmission is the credential. You were given a voice. You were given a particular perspective, a particular set of experiences, a particular angle on truth that is available to you and not to anyone else in quite that same configuration. That is the credential. The question has never been whether you have something worth saying. The question has been whether you trust yourself enough to say it. I also want to name something that's not often named in spiritual spaces because it can feel like pressure, and we've been taught that pressure is bad. There is a cost to staying quiet. Not a cosmic punishment, not karma, not a spiritual consequence imposed from outside, but a natural one. The organic cost of a gift that exists to serve and is not being used. There are people in your orbit, people who you haven't met yet, people who walk past you in the street, people who will find your content on a day when they are desperate, more desperate than they've ever been, who are specifically configured to receive what you carry. Their particular wound, their particular question, their particular stuck place. It resonates with your particular frequency. Not everyone's frequency, but yours. So when you stay quiet, those people, they're still looking for what they need. And they find a version of it somewhere else, imperfectly, or they don't find it at all. You are not their only option, but you are one of their options, and that matters. This is not meant to create pressure. It is meant to reframe the stakes. Staying quiet does not just cost you the expression that you're not having. It costs the people who were meant to be reached by the specific note that only you carry. The world does not need more content. It needs more frequency. Yours, specifically. So what does beginning actually look like when the voice has been quiet for a long time? When the habit of performing or staying silent is deeply grooved? When the gap between what you sense and what you're willing to say out loud has been maintained for years? It starts smaller than you think it should. And that smallness is not a failure of ambition. It's wisdom. Begin in the lowest stakes context available to you. Not the biggest platform, not the most important conversation, not the grand statement to the widest audience. The voice needs to find itself in smaller rooms first. A journal entry written as if someone will read it. A message to one person that says the actual thing instead of the safe version. A social post that names something true rather than something strategic. Notice what happens when you do that. Not in terms of external responses, though that will come, but in terms of the internal sensation. There's a feeling that accompanies speaking from your actual voice that is different from the feeling of performing. Most people describe it as both terrifying and deeply relieving, like setting something heavy down, like taking a breath after holding it for a long time. That sensation is your compass. Find it and move toward it. Not all at once, incrementally, one true thing at a time. The voice that has been waiting does not need to be coaxed into existence. It already exists. It just needs to be used. And the more that it's used, the more available it becomes. The frequency builds. It gets easier to access. It begins to feel less like risk and more like coming home. I want to speak directly to the people who know. The ones who have been sitting with something, a message, a perspective, a body of work, or a truth that needs to be spoken, for longer than is comfortable. The ones who can feel the weight of what has been waiting, who have had the nudges, the signs, the moments of it's time, and they've let it pass. You are not too late. The new moon is a reset, not because the universe keeps its appointments on a calendar, but because the natural rhythms of darkness and return offer us regular invitations to begin again. This one, in Gemini, at this particular moment in the larger cycle, is specifically charged for voice, for message, for the beginning of a chapter that has been waiting. The chapter does not begin when you feel ready. It begins when you begin. Readiness is not a prerequisite. Readiness is the byproduct. You begin imperfectly. You say the first version of the thing, which is never as complete or as polished as the version that you've been holding back, waiting until it was good enough. And in saying it, you discover what you actually think, what you actually know, what the thing actually is. The beginning makes the readiness, not the other way around. So begin, not when it's perfect, not when you feel qualified, not when someone tells you it's time, but now, in this new moon, in this invitation, in this charged and waiting moment. Begin. The new moon in Gemini is not asking you to become someone you're not. It's asking you to become more fully who you already are. It's asking you to let the frequency that has been quiet start to sound. To let the voice that has been waiting start to speak. To trust that the note you carry, the specific, unrepeatable, only yours note, is needed in the symphony. Not someday, but now. A new chapter does not announce itself with trumpets. It begins with one sentence, one honest word, one moment of choosing the real voice over the performed one. This is that moment. The new chapter begins now. So let it.